Hey, welcome to Hail Chatter, HailTrace's official podcast. I'm meteorologist Taylor Cox, joined with Collin Hunt, and we have a special episode today because this month is our 15th year anniversary. Now, Collin, I know that you know this, but HailTrace actually started as a storm chasing company way back in the day. They were called Extreme Weather Predictions, and then we took a little bit of a pivot and became the HailTrace that you know today. So we are going to be talking to storm chasers about the best storm chasing stories over the last 15 years.
And HailTrace has some great storm chasers and some great stories that we're going to hear from Derik Kline, John Choquette, and Justin Hughes. All are going to join us today in this episode of Hail Chatter.
Yes, they're going to be filling this chair right here, which is why it's empty right now, but we're going to bring them in. So let's get ready to hear their stories. We are here with HailTrace's CEO Derik Kline. Derik, how many years have you been storm chasing?
So I've been storm chasing since 1999. So what is that, 25, 26 years?
Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
I was 2 years old, Derik.
Aw, little baby Collin.
Yeah, I know. It's a long time.
Now, we call you the weatherman, and you have so much experience. I'm sure so many cool stories as well. Do you have any cool storm chasing stories?
Well, so my first tornado that I've ever seen, so this was actually pre-storm chasing. I was actually at Oklahoma City at the Oklahoma City ballpark. It was June something 1998. So we were at a baseball game in June. There's a severe weather risk day. I remember looking down Reno Avenue, down the ballpark, and seeing my first real wall cloud. And Wow. It was out by El Reno, so it was 30 miles away. But then that storm moved northeast across the Oklahoma City metro area. Tornado warning got issued. They made everybody leave the ballpark, not leave, but go downstairs at the ballpark. The tornado sirens started going off. And of course, I ran up to the top row of the bleachers so I could see the storm. And I'd already seen the wall cloud. And then the storm goes across Lake Hefner. In Oklahoma City. It dropped a tornado on Britton Road and May Avenue. I remember the roads and everything. As a weak tornado, but it damaged a couple buildings. It lifted, and then it retouched down again where all the news stations were. It knocked down Channel 4's their big tall tower, knocked that down. And then it dropped an F3 tornado that went through Frontier City and then straight down. And the F3, though, was like a big stovepipe cone tornado. And I could see it from the ball, so I could see it moving across the metro. And that was my first ever tornado that I've ever seen.
You weren't even chasing. The tornadoes found you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I was 15, 14, something like that.
Did it spark something in you that you were like, I want to see more of these? Or did you have that passion already?
I already had it. Yeah, I definitely was ready to chase tornadoes. So I was real excited when that happened to get to see my first one.
Derik, haven't you seen the Twister movie? You went up on top of the bleachers when the tornado came through?
Yeah. So 1996 was the first Twister movie. So that was 2 years before that. Mm-hmm. And so, I was hooked though. I was hooked well before that though. I'd always wanted to chase tornadoes. Growing up in Oklahoma, that was some of what happened. So my first, I don't think I have video of this one, but my first tornado chase. I have two first, I always say. So I have the first tornado I ever chased, and then I have the first tornado I ever saw develop when I was actually storm chasing. So first tornado I ever chased was May 3rd, 1999. Had my license, took the kid from around the corner down right across the street. His name was Jordan. And we got in my Chevy Cavalier, and the tornado had just touched down near Elgin, Oklahoma. So the first tornado of the day. We saw it live on TV, and I was like, let's go chase the storm. And so I knew nothing other than I knew very little. I'm only 16 years old. So I drive straight southwest. I decide, I don't want to go in front of the storm because I don't know what I'm doing. So we go down Highway 81 and we pull in behind the tornado, which by the time we get to it is near Amber, Oklahoma, and Bridge Creek, Oklahoma. So it was an F5 tornado.
Wow.
It was over a mile wide. And we got close enough that we could see the tornado. We didn't get very close. We 4 or 5 miles away probably.
But whenever it's a tornado that big, you
Yeah.
don't have to be close. You can still get a great view 5 miles out.
Oh yeah, yeah. And so we saw that tornado, and then another tornado. There was one near Anadarko. I think it was an EF3. Actually touched down behind us. So we're like driving up to this one, and I look up in my rearview mirror, and I can see another tornado on the ground behind us. And that's when I was kind of like, I don't know what I got myself into today. Not knowing what I was doing. So that hooked me. And then the next spring cycle comes around, and now I'm starting to learn like what the Storm Prediction Center is and outlooks, and so I've started kind of learning how to try to do my own forecast. And so I see a day and I think it looks like a good day, and I'm like, let's just go out I-40, and tornado watch gets issued, and we watch these little showers come. And now at the time I didn't know what was happening, but the showers crossed over the dry line, and then immediately the showers went surface based. We saw a lightning strike. This is near Cordell, Oklahoma. We were in Weatherford. So we drove west on I-40 and then south. We actually core punched the storm, had no idea what that was. Hail thankfully wasn't too big. I didn't think it could be that strong because the storm had just formed, but it had quarter size hail. And then we drove right underneath the mesocyclone. And I remember looking up and just seeing it going, just cranking around. And so we drove out from underneath it, turned around, and it dropped a tornado in the field right next to us, just north of Cordell, Oklahoma. That was the only tornado of the day in the whole state. It was on the ground for 5-10 minutes, maybe, lifted, and then the day was over with. And that was my first, go out, there's no storms, watch the storms form, watch a tornado. And that was May of 2001 or 2000, something like that.
It's shocking that you just learned what the SPC was, and you had a good enough handle on the forecast for the day to see the only tornado in the state.
I know, yeah. It might have been luck. I'm not sure. So I still remember. So I was learning a lot of stuff from local meteorologist here, David Payne. And so I was going in the mornings. He was at a different station at the time. So I was going in the mornings and learning from him. And I still remember coming back with my video, and he's like, all right, so I'm going to give you some pointers here. So you're behind the tornado, he said. So if you can get in front of the tornado, and he kind of showed me a radar image, like this is the best spot to be. And that's where that was the time that I learned, okay, so I need to be in front of. This is kind of where I learned about chasing in the bear's cage and trying to position myself to where I could see a tornado better. This one thankfully didn't have rain wrapping around the backside, so we were able to see it. But he's like, a lot of times you can't see the tornado from that angle, so you've got to be around the front side to see it. And so then started learning how to get in position a little bit differently.
Get the best view of the tornado.
Yep. And then in 2002, 3, 4, lots of storm chasing. I mean, all the way from Texas to Nebraska. That was probably the time period that I chased the most. So I would see 30 to 60, 70, 80 tornadoes a year, in that little stretch of time. And just saw lots of tornadoes all over the country. Had a ton of fun chasing tornadoes. One of our best ones was May 29th, 2004. Actually, I have video of that online. Oh my God, look how big it's getting, man. It's getting lost. Oh, wow. Oh, big branch. Oh, shoot, man, this is great. There's some driving, baby. Oh, yeah. Oh, dang. Hey, stop so we can film this really good. No. It was near Harper County, Kansas. And this is the first time I ever saw 2 tornadoes on the ground at the same time. It's where I learned a lot about how storms cycle, and so how one tornado can occlude out and then the new tornado will form. And so kind of how to adjust and balance your storm chasing on that. We actually drove through a small tornado, like a satellite tornado. This tornado went to a mile wide. We got in the inflow jet of the tornado, and it blew the power lines over right next to us. We were, maybe 100 yards from a big tornado. Really, really crazy video. So that one still goes down as one of my favorite storm chases because it was one of my first big outbreaks. big tornado. We got really close to it. That was a really, really cool day. So that was Harper County, Kansas.
Was there ever an event that you were like, whoa, that was a close call? You said there was one tornado forming in front of you and one behind you. Were you ever like, okay, we're going to call it? Or do you go back to the drawing board and say, how can we be safer next time? How can we be better next time?
You always go back to the drawing board. I mean, even on the chases that I do well, I'll look back and go, could I have done it better? And a lot of times better is get better video. Could I have gotten closer? So, a couple of storm chases. So close calls, May 31st, 2013, the El Reno tornado. We got really, really close to that one. So we chased on the north side of it. Tornado started going southeast, so we dropped southeast with it. We had dropped down 81 a mile south of where we ended up going to our east and west road. And we happened to noticed like the cone, and then I saw this other like satellite or something over here on the right that was on the ground. And I was like, whoa, this is bigger than I think it is. Like, so you can see the cone, but I could tell the tornado was a lot bigger than what it looked. So I actually turned around and went north 1 mile and then went east-west from there. On this road, there were some really, really like not the regular sized power lines, or the big ones. And so I knew the tornado was to the south, and it turned and it started coming back up to the north towards us. So we're driving east and west, and the tornado is now coming up like this. And so the goal is we've got to get ahead of it, because if it does this, it's going to pull the power lines down on us. So, and there was a car in front of us that was not a storm chaser, but was driving really slow. They were scared. The wind was pretty strong. Tornado off to your right, big tornado, right? Not like a little one. And so they were driving really slow, but they were using the middle of the road, so we couldn't pass them. So we literally just had to drive right behind them. Like in the video, I'm like honking my horn at them. Like, you've got to go, you've got to go. Like I can see the tornado surging up. Come on. My biggest fear was that it would get close enough, pull the power lines down, it would block us on the road, and then the tornado would hit us. Thankfully, it didn't, and we pulled, and we were able to go past, and it went a quarter mile behind us. Quarter mile, 2.6 mile wide tornado. Was a quarter mile away from us. We were close enough that there were pieces of insulation in the back of my truck. So that was a close one. That one definitely gave me some shakes.
Absolutely.
And of course that was, maybe not of course, but that was the tornado that killed 3 storm chasers. The Weather Channel was also flipped on that one. The road that we initially started to turn, but then went back north 1 mile, was the road that the storm chasers were killed on. And we most likely wouldn't have made it through had we not made that decision to move 1 mile north. So the decisions you make matter when you're chasing these storms, especially on the serious ones like that.
Okay, so you've obviously gotten so much experience over the last few years. You've grown in your knowledge and in your storm chasing decisions and everything, but the utilities and the resources that you have also grown. When was the first idea of we need a storm chasing truck? When did that happen? And then what were the steps that you took to make this amazing truck that we have today, the HailStalker?
So it was actually 2013 was the year that we decided to build this truck. So that was our first iteration. It's actually funny. So the Moore tornado of that year, so the F5, the last F5 still to date in the US. So we planned to chase that day. We also knew that we were getting the hail cage over the windshield was going to be put on the next day. And we were like, we've got to bust the windshield out one last time. That was like one of our biggest goals for that day. And so we left a little late, so we missed the whole first Moore tornado. We did drive through 2.5 inch hail in Midwest City. So we were coming in from the north trying to see the tornado. It weakened before we got there and lifted. And then that was really it for the storms for that day as far as tornadoes. So there were a string of supercells down I-35, and so we would just drop down, and none of them ever did much more than like nickel or dime size hail, and we're kind of bummed out about it. We didn't bust the windshield. We missed the big tornado. And so we stopped in Brahms in Ardmore, Oklahoma. about 10:30 at night. We're basically done. And so we eat, and then we get on the road, and the dry line actually refired again. And we're like, oh, crazy. These storms are going back up again west of I-35. So we're like, maybe something cool will happen while we're driving. And literally, so we're driving up I-35, and this storm just starts dropping baseballs on I-35 right on us and busted our windshield out. And we're like, oh, we did it.
The only people in Oklahoma who are going to cheer for a busted window.
It was wild, And so then the very next day we had the hail cage put on. And then our very next chase was the one I just talked about where we got really close. And we got baseball size hail on that day as well. In fact, I think we were seeing at some point, like these hailstones that were like none of them actually hit the truck, but you could see them like lasers falling out of the sky. Wow. They were just crazy. They almost had like a shadow behind them. They were so big. Just crazy hail. And so that was when that put it in. And now it's not nearly as much fun to chase in a car that you can't just core punch with. Like, that's so much fun now.
In your rental cars?
Yeah. I was trying to take care of them. So
the HailStalker is absolutely the thing to chase in.
Oh, it's so much fun to chase in that because obviously you don't drive in the tornado, but you can basically do whatever you need to get to the tornado. So it just makes it so much easier. Mm-hmm. I will say hail chasing is an art. Like, it's very difficult to find the biggest part of the hail core. The first year or two, we actually struggled to time it out right to get to the right spot. But once we figured that out, it was like we just hit them every time. It's pretty crazy. We don't see golf ball size hail in a chase. We're like, this is boring.
So you guys have had a lot of experience doing this. You have learned over the past few years. You've also pulled in HailTrace employees to go chasing with you. So these stories that you're talking about, you weren't the only person in the car. A lot of the employees were here as well, which are now friends and also other meteorologists. And they've also gotten that experience.
Oh yeah, it's so much fun to get to go out and chase with the team, and you learn things about people. You get to spend a lot of road hours together and laugh and joke and eat and take naps and stay in hotels. And there's just a lot of fun stories. It's you have to really be able to take that in. Otherwise it's, if you're just sitting in the car, not talking, not having a good time, that's the majority of the chase, right? Like even the big chase days where you get an hour of tornado video, you still had 10 hours of drive time where you got nothing. So, and an hour of tornado video is like once in 5 years. Like, that's not very many chases that you get very that rare. Much, depending on how much you chase, right? Like, if I went chasing every setup, I would get, 4 or 5 days a year like that. But that would be, chasing 60 days a year, not 5 like I do now.
A lot of people don't understand that there is so much time commitment in there. There's 10 hours in the car where the funny things are happening. You're having things just randomly on the road happen, but you're also making those relationships with the people that you are storm chasing with.
Yeah.
So if you had to summarize your entire time of storm chasing with one song, what song would you pick?
My favorite one's usually, which it might be changing now, I'm not sure, but definitely Thunderstruck by AC/DC is
that's a great
definitely
one.
My favorite song. Highway to Hell's a good one. I like that one a lot. Riders on the Storm by The Doors. That's a good one. I like that one. REO Speedwagon has one that's a really good one. What are some other ones?
You're going to have to add some of the songs from the Twisters movie.
That's the ones that are like moving up, right? So like Luke Combs.
Yeah, Ain't No Love in Oklahoma.
I love that one, right? Like, I don't know if everybody's put it together, but the big black train is a tornado. Like, that's what he's talking about. So, that's a good album. I love that album. So there's a lot of good songs in that one.
That's a great question. That's like a walk-up song. Your tornado walk-up song.
I know. I need one. For sure.
The next add-on to the HailStalker is like massive speakers.
Oh, I've actually thought of that. Like, I was like, we need to put because they blare it out in the Twisters movie. Like, it'd be fun just to be like going down the road. Ain't no love in Oklahoma.
I love it. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
15 years of HailTrace, even more years than that, storm chasing. Thank you so much for joining us today and telling your very fun storm chasing stories.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a lot of fun.
We're here with John Choquette, lead forensic meteorologist at HailTrace. John, you have been at HailTrace for 11 years, obviously storm chasing for many of those years, if not even before you came to HailTrace. You have a very extensive storm chasing experience. Tell us some of your favorite stories over the last 11 years chasing with HailTrace.
Well, there's definitely a lot of stories. I think the one that is the most memorable to me was May 24th, 2016. Myself and Derik and actually a couple guests that came along. So just people who had never chased before. We went up to Dodge City, Kansas, and there ended up being probably one of the more prolific tornado events from a single supercell in a long time. We saw 13 tornadoes. We had 3 on the ground at one time at one point, and we were in perfect position the whole time. So we had excellent views of each one of these tornadoes. They never got rain wrapped. They were super photogenic. They're still one of my backgrounds on my phone. After all these years, even after getting married, I still have one of those pictures on my phone because they have been, it was so impactful. And just 90 straight minutes of there'd be a tornado, it would occlude, and another one would come down. We had numerous sets of twins, which it's rare to even have. You have 2 well-formed tornadoes at once, and then we had 3 at once at one point, and it was crazy. Honestly, it was probably may end up being one of the best chases I ever had. And for the 2 guests that Derik had, they were having the time of their lives. They're like, oh yeah, we totally do this all the time. It's definitely like this. It's definitely not we're stuck in the middle of nowhere or something, or we waste our time. It's always incredible, and you have tons of footage and pictures to show your family.
That's a storm chaser's dream, to have almost 90 minutes of just tornado straight, which barely happens ever in a storm chaser's chasing experience. Now, I'm sure that the people that went with you, were they like, is this normal? Do you get this every single chase?
Yeah, and we lied. You're like, oh yeah, it's totally like this all the time. It definitely wasn't the day before we were chasing and we ended up in some mud. And then tornadoes happened after dark. And then when we saw the forecast models the next day, I was like, I'm just going again. Screw it. While we were waiting for storms to form, we were in this, we're in the middle of nowhere, right? We're in this field, and all these cows came up to us because I think they just thought that, they saw a pickup truck and they probably thought they were getting fed. And, so we have probably 20 cows, and one starts to pee, and then they all just peed at once. It's really weird, but like, just having them, apparently it was just one of those, like, when someone yawns, someone else yawns. I guess for cows, it's everybody decides they're going to pee all at the same time, and it made like a river of pee. And then that's what Derik and I joke of, like, that's why we saw this tornadoes. We got to have a bunch of cows pee before storms fire. And I guess that's how we see tornadoes that day.
We say that there's a lot of ingredients in tornadoes that we don't fully understand. It's a little mysterious. Maybe that's one of the ingredients.
Yeah, apparently it's like 70 gallons of urine.
Those are things that people don't think of whenever they're out in the field or whenever they see these storm chasing videos. They don't see everything that goes on behind the scenes, the waiting, the getting stuck in mud, the stopping at 5 different gas stations, watching the cows pees, all for the makings of a tornado.
It's amazing. You go out thinking you're going to see tornadoes, and one of the top highlights is seeing a bunch of cows peeing is pretty great. I am curious though, John, was there a moment with seeing all those tornadoes and chasing that day that it was like a oh no or a oh wow moment for that storm chase?
Definitely no oh no's. I mean, I was in the zone. We were driving down a dirt road. We were locked in, honestly. The dirt road we were on was going parallel with all the storms. So it was honestly there was never a moment where I was nervous. It was just excitement. We had a couple tornadoes pretty close to us, and that's where the excitement was even higher. I'm like, oh man, we're like within a mile of this one. This is awesome. And then the only time I had a little concern wasn't for my own safety, but when it moved into Dodge City, and we're like, oh no, it's going to hit the city. But thankfully the tornadoes, because they're spawning and then lifting, they lifted just in time for Dodge City to be fine. So yeah,
that's
that was
good.
Yeah, that's probably in terms of memorable chases where we saw something cool and I can give you guys some B-roll to show during this. That's probably the one to go for.
That's the best one. Well, thank you for joining us today, John. We enjoyed hearing your storm chasing stories. I think that we are going on to the next person now.
Yeah, awesome.
We are here with Justin Hughes, Customer Success Lead here at HailTrace. Justin, you have been storm chasing for many, many years. How many years exactly have you been storm chasing?
Probably since I could drive, probably like 16, 17. I would tell my parents I'd be doing something else and I'd be maybe out in Western Oklahoma, trying to trace storms. It's always been a huge passion of mine growing up. I remember the May 3rd tornado outbreak, and all my kids were out, or my friends were outside playing, but I was inside watching, Gary England at the time, and tornado coverage. So it's always just been a huge passion and like curiosity for me.
So many people in Oklahoma, they watch the news almost like entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
They love that storm coverage, but then other people get out in the field and they do some of that storm coverage. So I'm sure that you've picked up a lot of stories across the years. Do you have any favorite stories to tell us?
Yeah, I mean, I could go through, several, but I mean, I think the one that sticks out the most is going to be May 31st, 2013. That's, the widest tornado ever to be recorded. It was only, labeled an EF3, but, I think it reached 2.7 miles wide at its widest. That was a very intense day for a lot of reasons. We were very up close at first, and then we had to dive south. Luckily, unfortunately, there were some storm chasers that were impacted by that tornado. So that was probably the most exciting. It actually changed the way that I storm chase. Just being in that environment and just, all the other chasers around, getting stuck in all that traffic. But that day sticks out to me 100% every time someone asks me that.
Justin, so when you're storm chasing that May 31st storm, what would it have been like for somebody sitting in the passenger seat, and what would they have kind of heard or seen when you were chasing that storm?
Well, I was driving. My brother was in the passenger seat. In that video, you can actually hear my brother yelling at other storm chasers to go, because we were all just kind of trying to get out of the path of it. So you can actually get like kind of like a side, a passenger's perspective up from that video, because you can hear him. We're all kind of chaotic at that time, because the video starts with us outside of my car, and then we realized very quickly that we needed to get south. And so my passenger, my brother, was yelling at storm chasers who were parked vertically across the road to get out of the way, because like we were all just trying to get out. So it was very intense. It went from this is really cool, like we were super close. Multi-vortex tornado. It was right at the start of it. A barn almost gets taken out, and we're like, oh man, that barn got so lucky. Like the subvortice lifted right before it got to it, and then it went from like us being like, wow, this is a powerful tornado, to we have to get out of here. And then at that point, with it being relatively close to the city, we start, oh, I hope this thing doesn't actually keep trucking on. So a lot of it went from excitement to awe, because that's one of the best things about storm chasing is getting out there and just seeing the power of Mother Nature. And then you realize that we had to get out of there quickly. So it went, excitement to then us stressing out about how we were going to finding roads and getting out of there. So
yeah, your nerves goes up. You get a little anxious about the impacts of this tornado.
Yeah, I mean, it's always a sick feeling to watch a tornado actually go through a city. Obviously, definitely makes you want to throw up sometimes. So that's always a concern. That's why we like them out in the middle of nowhere, impacting nothing. It's a very powerful thing to witness. That storm was just on another level.
You got a lot of video from that day, and that actually ended up going much farther than just HailTrace.
Yeah. So I was chasing with my brother Ryan, and we posted like the video that we got on YouTube, and actually National Geographic reached out, and they used it in a documentary for Paul and Tim and all of them. And so that was like a really cool thing. Unfortunately, for the cause, it's sad, but that was, it's really cool that there's a documentary out there on Nat Geo that has my name in the credits. So that's always kind of weird to think about, and I always forget that part about it until someone asks me about that day, and then I'm like, oh yeah, like there's that whole Nat Geo thing. So
it's cool that you could still give back, to their stories.
Yeah.
After such a sad thing happened. I know that impacted a lot of storm chasers out there, because they said that could have been me. Derik
Yeah.
said we were just on that road that
Mhm.
they passed away on.
Yeah. I mean, it definitely hit home because at the time I was working for HailTrace. I was, that was back, in the early days. I actually left work and told Derik, and then I had to go back to the office and try to scramble and get things done. Pretty sure Derik says that he had to go in and fix my map and do things because I was, it was such a long day. But it was a sad thing, but it was nice to get back because I used to go to ChaserCon all the time, and I did get to interact with Tim and Paul and them, and so it was obviously very sad, but it was nice that we were able to give that back to the community because it was a huge hit for the storm chasing community.
One thing that I've noticed, and I haven't been storm chasing too much. I'm a meteorologist. I watch it usually from behind the scenes, via radar. But one thing that I've noticed is that the storm chasing community is very close. They know each other. They talk to each other at these gas stations and while they're out on chases, on weather Twitter.
Yeah.
They're very close.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how many times that I go out and I'll be, I know a lot of the tours that are out there, and I'll see someone, I'll wave at them as like I'm going by, or we catch up at the gas station before we go our separate ways. Weather Twitter can always be an interesting place, but the storm chasing community is a very niche but close community that we most of the time get along. There are some people out there that like to argue whether it was a wedge or if it was a tornado or not, but most that community is really tight knit, and it's really cool when you're out for those couple of months of the year and you get to go out and you get to see people that you only see out on dirt roads in Oklahoma or Kansas or something. So yeah.
Justin, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And that is it for this episode of Hail Chatter. 15 years at HailTrace, and we got to hear some great storm chasing stories. If you haven't already, make sure to like, subscribe, share this episode with a friend, and we'll see you in another 2 weeks.